The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. I'm just going to let everyone trickle in before I start the webinar. But hello to everyone that's currently here. It just takes a second for people to get admitted and get their sound working and everything. For the people that are here, if they wouldn't mind before I start, just popping in the questions box or the chat that they can hear me is super useful. This webinar isn't going to flow too well if you guys can't hear me. So either in the chat or as a question to me, if someone could just let me know that they can hear me, then I can keep going. Otherwise, I won't know that you guys are having a good time. Oh, cool. Thank you, Chuck. Yes, Chuck can hear me. That's what we like to hear. Hi, Chuck. I did an onboarding with Chuck earlier and referred him to today's webinar with all of you other lovely people as well. We've just got a couple more trickling in, and then I will make a start. Cool. So we look like the numbers have slowed a bit coming in, so I'll make a start. Hi everyone, my name is Honor. I am a member of Convertri support staff, and you're very welcome, Chuck. Chuck's messaging as well. Yeah, I'm a member of Convertri support staff. I'm in the Facebook group. I help with our onboarding calls. I do our emails. My voice might be a bit familiar if you've either watched one of these webinars before, one of our recordings, or alternatively, if you have watched some videos in the knowledge base, that is me. So hello. Because I can't show myself today, I will show you me on the company website. So this is me back when I got my post-COVID haircut finally. That was a good day. And this is me on the company website, just with the rest of our team. It's a good place to see all of our faces in this digital age where you might not. And in today's webinar, I am going to show you guys how to build a lead gen funnel. So you're going to have a page with a form set up on it. So someone inputs their details, leading to a thank you page, which will deliver a download of a product. This is going to go from scratch. So if you're not familiar or you are familiar, this will cover it all. After that, I'm going to show you some editor tips and tricks, and I think that's a really good one to stick around for, guys. These editor tips and tricks, the first time I started the webinar, after having watched the webinar, after having been at Convertri for a while, changed the way I used Convertri, and it makes everything run smoother and quicker. I spend a lot of this webinar stressing that we are all human, and in life sometimes you have to cut out that human error because we are human and we make them. And that's what the tips and tricks are about, just keeping everything in tip-top shape. The final thing I'm going to do is each time we do one of these webinars, we show off something new we have developed. So we tend to do releases every Tuesday. That includes bug fixes, but also new features that we've got going on. And one of our most recent releases was a debugging feature, which is saving us on support, but also people themselves loads of time. So I will show you that off to you guys, and then I will open the floor. So throughout this webinar, I'll be doing things, and if you wish for me to slow down or do it again, ask why I'm doing it or something like that, please pop it in the question box. I'm very friendly, and I'll just repeat or explain a bit further my thinking. If you guys have some more general questions that you've come to this webinar about, such as domain, video, how to sell with Convertri, I might ask that you can keep those until the end if that's all right. And then what I will do is everyone will get a chance to ask me any questions, no time limits, and we'll get everything answered so that everyone feels that they're ready to really start moving again. So just to get an idea of the kind of people we have here today, I'm going to ask you guys, how familiar do you feel with Convertri? So putting into questions or chat, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 is I've never even opened Convertri, what is Convertri? And 10 is Honor, I could do this webinar for you. I am so good at Convertri. So if you guys could just pop in and let me know how you're feeling, I could just gauge the temperature of the room. We tend to have pretty low numbers on the webinar, which is expected. That's kind of what we're going for because you guys want to learn. But sometimes we get a couple high numbers, and I know it's time to perform because these guys know what they're talking about, right? Of course, we've mostly got ones and zeros, and yeah, no, we've got mostly ones today actually. So don't be afraid, ones. There's a whole team of you guys all here ready to learn. And hopefully we'll get that number a little bit higher by the end of this webinar, give you guys some confidence, which is just super duper useful. Yeah, we've got a couple ones, twos as well flowing in as well. Like I think I know what funnels are and I think I know how I'm going to get going, but this webinar could be useful. Cool, well, let's see how high I can get these numbers today, hopefully a bit higher. So I'm going to start building my first funnel because that's what we're here for. So I'm inside a funnel right now, and that is just when you open up Convertri, you'll see your campaigns dashboard with a list of your funnels. If you're new and you haven't built one, it'll prompt you to build one, and then you'll be taken to a screen like this. Ignore these pages because I've added them to use later. It will just be blank like this. And so the first step, like anywhere, is to build your first page. And the first page I'm going to be building is the page where someone will enter their information and get that form information set up. So I'm going to click on New Page in the top right, which is a little blue button. And up will pop up a new screen. This screen shows off all of our beautiful, beautiful templates. And those templates, guys, I mean, they're endless. I could scroll for days on the number of templates that we have that are just ready for you guys to use. So I'd recommend having a look at those in your own time because easily adapting one of those will save you a ton of time. But today we're going to create a page from scratch because if we can create a page from scratch today, we can most certainly be adapting those templates and you'll get that confidence up. So rather than picking one of these, I'm going to click create a page from scratch to get a blank one. And I'm going to name it. This is my opt-in page, so I'm going to name it that. But that is up to you. So we get taken back to the funnel, but now there's a new page in it and it's completely blank. This is just like the holding screen, if you will. Once we've published a page, you'll be able to see what it looks like here. So let's get into the editor. Excuse me, guys, got a bit of a tickle. Let's get into the editor and have a look at this. So once you've added a page and you want to start editing it, hover over and click Edit Page. You'll be taken to Convertri's editor. So we've got a lot of low numbers on the webinar today. So this editor just might not be something that you guys have seen yet, but please don't stress. It is nice and simple, and we're going to run through how to make it work for you. So the editor looks like this because there are no elements on our page. It is plain white. Up here you have kind of wider setting up forms, which we'll touch upon, setting up products or actions, so things happen at certain points on your page. Then this little toolbar here is where you add all of your elements, the element tray. Anything that you add to your page will be found here. So I'm building a page from scratch, but I kind of need to know vaguely what I want to build. And luckily, my kind bosses, my overlords at Convertri, have built an example page that we're going to try and replicate today. So it's got some headers, a footer with a privacy policy, big background image, really high quality, and just some text and a form. So let's look at this. I'm going to memorize it into my brain and then I'm going to recreate it. Looking at that, the first step I'm going to do is add the background image, and then we're going to build up from there and get those all important form elements on and wire those up. So to add a background image, it's very simple. We need to add an image element. So go to the elements tray, hover over. Luckily, they all have handy names on them, which will help out. Some of these fold out, such as this with the 3 dots, but image is just an image. So if I click that, I will get a nifty little pop-up. In here are all the images I've ever added to my account. Super useful. They're stored here and I can keep them in little folders as well. You can see I've got a few folders. And uploading to Convertri is super easy. Either click this button here and, fold through your files as you would normally to upload somewhere, or literally just drag and drop from your desktop to pop this in. Once you've done it, you'll be able to get it on any page. So that is super duper useful. Another super duper useful thing about our images is that we have a direct API integration with Pixabay. So if you guys aren't familiar with Pixabay, they allow you to just get hold of free images. Basically, they're like Unsplash or any of those. And these images can just go straight on your page. You can use them and not worry about copywriting or having to pay for them. So if you want a Pixabay image, you can click search Pixabay and you can type in anything that your heart desires. So do people want to drop in the chat or the questions again, something that they want me to search for an image for? I think in previous times I've done biscuits, which you know what I didn't appreciate because I was really hungry. I've done bears. Last week we did coronavirus, which was a bit heavy for me, but you know what? We looked up the images. Oh, thank you. I think Pramit, I hope I'm saying your name correctly. I am awful at that. Has said puppies, and as much as I love some of the other suggestions you guys have given, I do want to see some puppies. So I am going to search up puppies and see what Pixabay has to offer me. There's puppies. Oh, the webinar's already better, you guys. So thanks for your other suggestions. Maybe you guys can search them up in your own time. Puppy is just one for me. So as you can see, I now have all different images on my page. I've got like a nice black background here, pretty slick. Oh, I mean, that dog looks really happy. And you can simply click on these and then click select and it will be straight on your page. However, there is one limitation to using Pixabay, guys, and although it's a small one, I am going to bring it up today. When I click on one of these just lovely photos, you can see here the image resolution. And they're pretty much all at this size. This is the cap. This is just as high quality as the pictures get on Pixabay. And that is 1920 by 1280. And it's pretty good quality. I'm not going to lie. If you hadn't seen this webinar, you probably wouldn't notice that there was a resolution issue. But there's the reason that I'm not going to use one of these images today, because I have a super high quality image of my own that I want to use, because I want to show you guys that I can use something 5 times the size of this adorable puppy, and my page speed load won't be compromised when I publish the page. The page will still be speedy as ever, which is one of our main business models. So I'm going to go back to my home folder where all my saved images are, and I'm going to use this image here, familiar from the demo page, and as you can see, a hell of a lot larger, but it is not going to bring us down. So once I've got that clicked, you just click select if you want to add it to your page, and the element is added. So that's good. That was the first step of what I needed. I got it on my page. The next step is making it cover the whole page, right? I don't want any annoying little white gaps. I want to be able to use it as a background image with no issues. And the best way to do this is to make this image full width. It will fit to the sides of whatever screen it's showing on. Convertri does it for you. To do this, make sure that your image is selected. You know that you've got this image selected because you've got the little blue lines around it. As we add more elements, you'll see that this goes away when I click on another element. But I know right now that I have this selected, and so I'm going to click the full width button. It's in this top toolbar. We'll be using a couple of different buttons from this top toolbar, and full width we'll be using a couple times. So with this selected, I'm going to click on those 2 arrows, and my image is nicely tucked to the side. Oh, that was satisfying. And now I'm just going to move it up and then pull it down to cover the rest of the page. So already showing off kind of Convertri's freeform here, which is just one of the best parts of this editor. It is nice and smooth. Editing the size is literally just a case of pulling this up and down. So my background image is sorted. Feeling pretty good about that. The next thing I'm going to do is add that header and footer that I showed on that demo page. Every single week my challenge is trying to match that color, and I can't claim I'm very good at it, but we're going to give it a go. So I need a header and a footer to hold my privacy policy. And I'm going to do this with a panel. A panel is basically just a grey square, but throughout this webinar I'm going to use panels over and over and over again. And by the end of it, you will understand how much I love them. And one of the things they're good for is building a plain header like this one. Just a nice simple box, but also this here is a panel. So you're going to see all the things panels can offer you. In the element tray, I'm going to hover over this square that says panel and drag it onto my page. This is edited in the same way I edited the image. So I'm going to make it full width and then drag it up. And I don't need it to be that high because it is covering everything. So I'm just going to pull it up here. That's a good size for me, I think. Maybe it's a bit wider than the demo page, but I quite like it at that width. And that will be my header but it's the wrong color. I mean, don't get me wrong, as I said, matching that yellow can be hard, but I don't want it to be the gray. So I need to change its background color. And the process that I'm about to show you for changing the background color is actually the same process of changing the background color of any element, okay? So this does not just stand for panels. This is for pretty much all elements that have a background. To do it, you're going to click on it and you're going to see that you've got it clicked because of those blue lines, which, as you can see, aren't on the image. Click Element Properties, and then I'm going to go to Background. Under Background Fill, we've got this little color picker, and this is showing the color that the panel naturally is, the one I have now. I'm going to click to open it, and I'm going to get this little color picker, which is the same as you would drag an element around, you drag the color picker around. So I'm going to pull this up to yellow. You know, I can go through the whole rainbow. And then I'm going to select one, and you'll see that the color picker changes live. So that is super, super useful for getting the design of your pages right. You don't have to sit around, you can drag this around and see what it looks like. So I'm just going to look at the yellow. Oh, it's quite a light sandy one on that demo page. I think it's further down here. Whoa. I think I'm colorblind today. Right. I'm going to go ahead and say that that's the closest I want to get to it. So I'm happy with that color. As I am pulling this around, you will see that these numbers change. So this RGB value is just a numerical value of this exact shade of like sandy beige yellow. And this is super useful if I want to use this on another page, for instance, keep my consistency up across my pages, have the same uniform colors. I would either put this on a post-it, which is my preferred method of doing things, or you can just copy and paste this from this box into another box. And just like that, you will be able to have the same color across all of your account. So you probably won't use this too often, but when you do, super powerful. And again, saving you the human error of trying to guess the same color. When you're happy with your color and you have noted your RGB value, if you so need to, you can click select. And that's saved now. So I'm going to go back and close my properties, and I've got my header all ready. And now I need to make my footer. But my footer is actually basically the same as my header. It's a panel, it's the same color, it's full width. It just goes at the bottom. And so rather than recreating that, I'm just going to clone this header here, and I am going to make it so that it is exactly the same. That's what cloning is, right? I don't think I needed to explain that. Oh well. So with this element clicked, you can go to clone in the top hand toolbar, and you will have two of the element, and then you can pull this one wherever you want it. So just like that, I have a header and a footer. They're the same size, they're the same color. I didn't have to sweat too much. I like the bit where I get to clone. So those are on my page now. And when looking at this, I think it's time we start building this. This is the main part of the page. Bit of text editing to go on here, bit of panel editing, getting the form set up, and then I'll add a little text box down here. So as I said, the background of that is a panel. So I'm going to drag one of those onto the page. I'm going to make it a bit bigger because it's got a bit more to contain. I never make it big enough on the webinar and then I have to resize it later. I'm not falling for that today. So there we go. Nice big panel. I need 3 text boxes, 2 forms, a submit button, and another text box. So adding a text is easy. It's just above the image element, and you can just drag it onto the page. So that's my title. This is just a PLR or a free guide that we have ready on the 7 top tips for living without starving, and that's what we put our example pages on. So obviously you would have the text here that suits your brand, whatever you're giving away, or just information about what happens when they sign up. I'm just doing my little sales spiel so that they want to sign up. If I could spell my sales spiel, guys. Cool, that's the biggest piece of text I have to do, so you won't have to sit in silence. Thank you for bearing with. Cool, so that's all in one place. I'm just going to make the box a bit wider because it needs to be, but I'll get to editing the size of this in a second. The next box is one that says enter your details below, because there is nothing wrong with being incredibly clear on your pages, your input pages. What we really want is them to sign up now. And so making it as easy and clear and obvious as possible just never hurt anyone. The bottom text box is one about spamming. And this is not necessary. This is something that I'm doing because we think that it's a really good idea. And that's that we live in a day and age where people do spam people. And that is annoying. I'm sure we have all been at the end of someone who you wish would just stop emailing you 7 times a day. And that's one of the main reasons why people don't want to give you their email address. They don't want to give it up to a stranger who's going to do something random with it. And so we just put those notes on and we say you guys should too, just to comfort that person and like saying, you know what, I'm signing you up for this and that's fine, but I'm not going to be emailing you 25 times a day. So before I put the boxes in here, my 2 form fields and my submit button, I'm going to make this look more like it does on the demo page, because this looks more like a title, this looks more like body text, that's smaller. This currently all looks a bit samey. So you can click in these text boxes and highlight the text and edit it at the top like this. We've got font, size, color, bold, italics, underline, a couple of more advanced ones down there. But what I'm going to do instead is something that we really recommend you do, and that's instead change the default text styles. So this size here and this font is currently the default for this page. So when a new text box is added, it's automatically the font Roboto and the size 16. But you're quite likely to add quite a lot of information to your page, and you don't want to be going in and highlighting and making sure everything's the correct font. If you set a default text style, then your text boxes will automatically fall into step. They will do that. They will choose that font, that size, that weight. And so then you don't have to worry about it. So to set this up, go to Page in the top hand toolbar. A couple of little things, options in this pop-up, but the second one is default text styles. And you'll see, as I said, that Roboto is the default with a size 16. Well, this isn't quite what I want, so I'm going to go for Lato. Just a font that I like a bit better. I'm going to change it to 1.5 line spacing, give my lines a bit of space to breathe. You might notice while this is happening that the text boxes behind are changing, and that's because much like the color picker, they change live the moment I make these changes. So that is useful. I think I'm going to make it a bit bigger. It's just a bit small for me, maybe in size 18. Yeah, that's a bit better for me. So the final option here is about the default font scaling on mobile, and that's the only one out of these that I think is not the most obvious. So font scaling is basically that mobiles are smaller, and so you have to up the size of your font, otherwise people are squinting and zooming and they can't read, and that's not what you want from your pages. So this, by default, sets the font scaling to 150%. So if it's size 12 on your desktop, it's size 18 on your mobile, as an example. And you can decide if this is right for you or not. I'm going to tone mine down a little bit because that's going to make my font really big. So I'm just going to choose 125%, and that's personal preference, and that's probably going to be something that you guys end up messing around with a bit and deciding what percentage works for you. But that's where I'm at with this is my main paragraph text. Just doesn't need to be that big. But I'm going to set the default for my heading as well, because as you can see here, there was a heading that had a different size. And so I'm going to set up the heading to be a bit bigger, to be a bit bolder. So it's going to be bold. Size 36 is a bit big, even by my standards. So I'm going to go 24. Go for a different font that I think complements Lato quite well. And I'm going to set the default font scaling 140, so the heading is the main thing they see. It'll be quite a bit bigger than the text on mobile because I set that to 125. And that's because this guide is what they came to my page for. Let's say I'm hypothetically advertising on Facebook. This is what I led them in with. So hopefully it's the title that's going to get them, not the main body text. Cool. Well, I'm happy with both of those. So I'm going to click done. And now all of these assume that so when an element is added to your page, a text element, it's assumed to be a paragraph unless you tell it otherwise. So it will have the paragraph default text styles. And that's fine for most of these elements. I'm just going to shuffle them down now. They've got some extra line spacing. But this one here is my title, and I want it to look like my title, right? So I'm going to highlight it, go to more, and where this P is, that P is for paragraph. It says I'm on the paragraph default text style. So just click on H1, which I just set up, and then close the More tab. And now it's doing it correctly. We've got a bit more pizzazz that's sticking out a lot more. And I'm going to kind of work out how these elements are arranged in a second, so that's not too bad. If you ever want to change just one text element, you don't have to change the whole default text style. You can just change this and it won't affect the others. So if I decide like that's a bit smaller on the demo page, as is this, then those are smaller, those are bigger, but the default text styles remain. So once you've set them up, then you can tweak them to your heart's content. Well, as promised, I've got these on my page now. So it's time to add those all-important form elements, the bits where the users actually input their information. And to get any kind of form element, when you go to the elements tray, we have a whole folder that contains all the form elements you need. So click on this and you'll be asked what kind of form element you want. Today, I'm going to be taking a first name from them. I'm going to take an email address from them, and I'm going to pop a submit button. Out of all the things you could add, the email and the submit button are basically at the bare minimum of a page. They would be the two things that you actually need. Otherwise, no one can be added to your list. So these two are the bare minimum, but I'm going to add first name because I might want to personalize some emails further down the line and say, hey, Stephen, hey, whoever, thanks for joining my mailing list. So I like to do that, but you can collect even more information, phone numbers, addresses, etc., all depending on what your form's for. In this case, mine's just for a mailing list, so I'm trying to keep it short so people still sign up. Now, these boxes, slightly annoyingly, do not end up being affected by default text styles. They are their own thing. And so if I want these to have that default text styles font, I need to make sure that I add them. And so to change any kind of editing on these is super easy. So I'm just going to be changing this font to be Lato to match this. It's probably not even going to be that noticeable, but I have to have it happen. It has to be perfect for me, or I don't want to continue with the webinar. So I'm going to click on that element, go to element properties, and general properties and down is always the same for every element, right? So we showed background earlier. These are the same, and then above it is the properties that are specific to this element. For instance, a video element will have up here the video settings, and in this case it has input properties. Input properties is what does the input look like. I'm fine that it says first name, but as I said, I want this to be Lato. And maybe a bit bigger. Yeah, put it at 18. Happy with that. I'm going to do the same on this box. Nice. They're matching now. That makes me feel better. And this also needs to be done on my submit button. So the submit button has many different roles. When you go to button settings, you'll see mode. These are all the different things that these buttons can do. They can sign up, which is what we're doing today. They're signing up to a list. They can open our modal checkout, make an on-page purchase. They can have a link on them, a download, which I'll show you guys when I build the thank you page to download the guide that I'm giving away for free, and a trigger, so to trigger a pop-up or something like that. We're going to stick with sign up today, but I want them to understand that they'll get the guide if they choose to click and download. I'm going to set this to be the same font as my title. And I'm going to make it a bit bigger. I'm going to make it bold. Yeah, that's more like it. So those are a bit more to my liking now. And all my elements are on there, and I'm pretty happy with it, but they're a bit of a jumble sale. I've tried to, make sure that these are in order, but as you can see when I click on it, the outlines just aren't lining up at all. So as good practice, I'm going to make sure that these are only as big as they need to be, the text elements, because that helps. And I'm actually just going to make the box a little bit smaller because I think it's a bit big. There we go. So you may have noticed that when I click on this panel, all the elements inside it have these little pink lines around them. And that's because not only is this panel acting for aesthetic reasons to hold everything in one place, but it's also got a manual reason, if you will, a reason for you. And that is because it acts as a container. It sits behind it and it kind of groups everything in it. So you can move individual things around still, but you can also grab it and move these as a group. And with this special container talent that the panel has, it also lets us edit everything inside it a lot easier in terms of alignment. So there are alignment tools that can make my life just that little bit easier. So when I've got this clicked, so I've got the pink snap lines there, you can go to the alignment tools in the top hand toolbar. This is the main alignment tool and it would center everything to the page center. So that would be about here. But I don't want to do that. I want to do something a bit more complex. So I'm going to click on this down arrow. And I know that I'm affecting everything inside the container because it says container mode, or it did. There we go. So I could align this to page center as I said, but actually I'm going to center align as in to the actual container itself. You can see the picture kind of helps describe that. So I'm going to center align it there. Ah, that looks better. Just going to bring some of these down for my own purposes, and then I'm just going to recenter again. So now those are all lined up beautifully. That makes me feel better. These are all, I didn't have to do anything. I'm now going to make sure that these are equally distributed. So the spacing between this and this is the same because I've created like a small little gap in there. And I don't want to affect everything inside the container. So rather than clicking to get that pink snap line, I'm going to click on this element here, hold down Shift. I promise you I am, I know you can't see it. And then select all the other elements I want to affect. Then I'm going to go back to this arrow again. And I think I'm going to distribute vertically. And now they have an equal gap between them. And do you know what? That's starting to look like how I wanted it to look. The text is there, everything's looking good. But the panel doesn't look like it did on the demo page. Here it's like opaque and it's got circular corners and it looks more like something I intended to put on there. Mine just looks a bit like a square. No hate to the panel, it's doing great. But I think I want to make this look a bit better. So as I said, there's going to be two things I'm going to do to this panel. I'm going to give it some rounded corners to make it look a bit nicer. And I'm going to make it a bit opaque so it fades into the background a bit more. It doesn't look like this grey blob. So I'm going to click on it. It doesn't matter that all the other stuff, the element outlines come up. As long as I've got it selected, then when I click element properties, it'll be affecting the container. I'm going to go to borders first. And if I wanted, I could affect so that just this one corner is super curved, for instance. You can see it changing there. But I want mine to all be the same. So I'm going to toggle on border radius and I'm going to choose one type of circle, one gradient of circle for the whole way around. If you start lowballing with numbers here, you're going to notice that the change is so minimal you can't see it. I normally go in at about a 30, potentially a 40 for the webinar. Yeah, quite like that. So that now has some nice curved corners. They're looking pretty good. The other thing I need to do is make this opaque. And I do that the same way that I changed the color of the background of this panel, if you remember. So with the element clicked, I go to background, I open the color picker. And if I was wanting to change the color, I'd do that process again to the left here. But I'm trying to change the opacity. I'm trying to make it a bit more see-through, if you will. And this is the opacity gradient. If I pulled this all the way to the bottom, you wouldn't even know that the element was there. Slightly annoying in this instance because no one can read my text. So I normally go for about here. Ooh, a bit lower. I think 70 was my last. Yeah, I'm thinking there. And you'll notice that with this, RGB value is now an RGBA value, and that is exactly the same principle as the color RGB value. The A just is like for the opaque. So this is the amount of opacity that you have here. So again, you could write this down on a post-it note and make everything across several pages the same opacity. I'm happy with that, so I'm going to click select. And you know what, guys, not to toot my own horn, that's starting to look pretty good. I'm starting to feel pretty good about this. But I am missing my little privacy policy at the bottom. And as the internet grows and changes, more and more people are having to put these little hyperlink text on their pages about terms of service, privacy policy, stuff about GDPR. And I'm no different. In this webinar, I'll be adding Convertri's privacy policy. So to do this, I'm going to add a text element. Type in privacy policy. I'm then going to make sure that this is dead center on the page. So I'm going to center the text on the page, and then I'm actually going to center the element. So that's dead center, which makes me feel a bit better. And now I need to go from this just being text to this being text that has a link on it, the hyperlink. So to do this, highlight any text that you would want to be a hyperlink. And in the top hand text toolbar, which comes up, choose the hyperlink button. It looks like two links clinking together, so it's nice and clear. And in the box where you're prompted, enter the URL of your hyperlink. So in this case, Convertri obviously has a privacy policy for our users. So you wouldn't be using our privacy policy, you would be using your own privacy policy. But that is the URL of that when it is needed and when someone wants to see it. You do have the option here to create an internal link, which I'm not going to do, but what an internal link would mean is that when this text is clicked, it would scroll to a certain point on my page. So it's a link between one part and another. So someone might click sign up now and be taken to the setup form at the bottom of your page, for instance. But we're not going to do that here. We don't need to give it a title right now, but what we are going to do is toggle on open in a new tab. And that is because people are easily distracted. I'm easily distracted. You're easily distracted. It is the world of the internet. If they click on this and it looks like that, so it doesn't open in a new tab, then this page is going to be replaced with the privacy policy. And they might get distracted. I mean, privacy policies aren't exactly a thrilling read, and they might not go back to your original page. Having this toggled on means that this link opens in a new tab and they can browse it at their own will, but they'll still be prompted to come back to your page. So I think that that's a really important one to always open in a new tab for that kind of thing. When you're happy and that looks correct, click save. And I know this is linked up because it's got that little underline underneath, which is kind of a universal sign for a hyperlink text. People kind of expect it, and so it's added automatically. Well, you know what? Pretty pleased with that, guys. That page is looking good. And I'm going to click save so that I don't lose any of my work. The other thing I'm going to do is check how it looks on mobile. So I'm looking at it right now as if I was on a desktop, but we understand that mobile is completely different, and so Convertri creates a mobile version of your page and shows you what that would look like. Right now, this has done a pretty good job of guessing. There weren't too many elements on my page anyway, which helps. It's done a pretty good job of guessing what my mobile page would be like. I'm feeling pretty good about this. But if I wanted, I might decide that I think this should be lower down and this should be higher up. Don't know why. It's massacring my page a bit, but we move. So you can edit this and drag it around just as you can do in the other editor. And maybe, jig elements around because we understand that things do look different in mobile. If you decide that actually the way Convertri did it is much better, which I think we can all agree it was in this case, click Remobilize in the top-hand toolbar and click Remobilize All. And Convertri is once again going to snap it back to that version of the page that it thought that you should have. And in this case, Convertri is right. Another cool thing about this is that if I drag this element all the way down underneath here, it doesn't affect the way it looks on the desktop. So you can edit the appearance here without affecting the desktop at all. So I'm confident both in my mobile and in my desktop pages, so I'm going to click Save. The next part will be where I link up the form and send them to this delivery thank you page. But I can't set up the form without having set up the page first, right? So I need to go out of here, go back into my funnel, create a thank you page that delivers the product to them, and then I can set up the form. And then I'll have a full working funnel. So I've saved that. So I'm going to click on the X to go back to my funnel. And you've just watched me build up that whole page, right? And you're probably thinking, Honor, I really don't want to make you, watch you build the same page again from the ground up. And I agree, that could get to be a really long webinar. And as much as, I love a chit chat, I think some of you guys might get incredibly bored. But luckily, just the same as we cloned our header and footer, Convertri lets you clone your pages. So I'm going to create a clone of that page. I'm just going to tweak it a bit for my needs. It's going to keep in with that house style. The default text styles will get passed over. The colors of the headers and footers get passed over. And then I get to be lazy. And I like being lazy. So I'm going to click on the 3-dot menu. I'm going to click more. And then I'm going to click clone. And this is going to be my thank you page. So I'm going to click clone. So this is an identical copy of this page. Before I go in, I'm going to link these two up with an arrow, and arrows have two purposes. So I'm going to let you guys know once I've done it. So once you pull an arrow over, it will build itself. So you pull them out from the corner. Here, you can do it on any of these, and just pull it over the page card to point an arrow between them. And as I said, these have two purposes. The first is visual. This lets you understand the flow of your funnel, because as things get more complicated, knowing which page is linked to which can be a real asset, especially if you build something and then you go back in 6 months' time and you think, oh my gosh, what the hell is happening here? Well, don't worry, because you will have all your arrows showing you where stuff goes. So I always use it as a visual representation. The other thing, which you'll get to see when I set up the form, is that if I tell Convertri, hey, after this page, they're going to this page, it'll go, all right, and it's going to pre-fill in the URL of this page for me, eliminating that human error, because we've all done it, and I've done it myself, not done that arrow, tried to type in the name of the thank you page, and then it's 404 because that wasn't the name of the thank you page. So these arrows eliminate so much human error. So I'm going to draw that, and then I'm going to click on edit page. Cool, I just took a little drink while that loaded up, because this is a little chit chat for me. Right, so we're back in this carbon copy of my page. But as I said, this is my thank you page, and that means that it doesn't need all of the things that this element does have. This page has, sorry. So I'm going to keep the header and footer, I'm going to keep the background, so when they get redirected here, it's clearly of the same ilk, if you will. It's clearly my page that they've gone through, and they're not getting directed to some third party. But I don't need these form elements because they will have given me their name by then. So to delete these, what I did just then was I clicked on it and I clicked backspace. Your other option is to use this, I believe the Americans would call this icon a trash can. I, as a British person, would call this a bin. I'm sure people on the call call it all different things. This thing, this bin, trash can, whatever you want to call it. Click on it and the element disappears. So I'm going to do this again with the spam stuff. They've signed up by now. They don't need more reassurance. And I'm going to get rid of the enter details below because they will have already done that. I'm going to move this up. I'm going to move this up and pull this here. So just making use of the free form, dragging there. And I don't need to sell them on this text. I've already done that on the previous page. So I'm going to do click the button below to get your hands on your free guide. Nice and clear for them. And again, I'm trying to align, and I don't know why I'm doing that when I could just click in the container, the arrow again, and center align. Vertically contained works there. Cool, so those are all lined up how I want them. But the final thing I need to do, because this page is pretty good now, but I actually need to set this to the file that I have ready. So currently the button settings of this button are sign up. That's the default style just because it's the one that you guys are probably going to use the most. But as I said earlier, this has a variety of different modes, and one of these is download. So a user is going to enter their details, be directed to this thank you page, and when they click this button, they'll get that guide I promised them. I'm not deceiving them, I'm telling the truth. So to add this file to the download button, set the type to download, and then open this little folder icon. And I will come up a screen that acts pretty similar to the way our image library screen works. To upload, you click here and you upload the file, or you drag and drop from a desktop. You can see I've already done that because I've got one in here. This is done for all the different domains within your account, right? So these are all different domains and they have different things attributed to them. And this is great. You can host files directly with us. You don't need to do it elsewhere. With one limitation. These files are limited to 40 megabytes. 40 megabytes is pretty big, by the way. I never really have a gauge of how big storage is. 40 megabytes is pretty big. And so your average Joe really isn't going to have an issue with this file size issue. If you're not the average Joe and you think 40 megabytes is tiny, my guides are massive, especially people who sell their guides for money, tend to be a bit beefier, tend to be a bit heavier. They might be bigger than 40 megabytes. And that's fine. You can still add it to your download button. Don't leave the webinar. All you'll do is get a self-hosted link from someone like Amazon S3, which is who we use because they are cheap. And you'll just put the link in here into this grey box. And it will do exactly the same thing as if it was hosted with us. So that's nice and easy. But luckily for me today, my file is well under 40 megabytes. So I'm going to click on it, the one I have already downloaded, and I'm going to click select. And it's got the URL on it now, so it's already on my button. The other thing to set up here is this forced download on click option. And that means that typically when someone clicks this, a pop-up will appear and it will say, and it will show them the guide, right? If I toggle this on, it also automatically downloads it to their computer. And whether you have this on is kind of up to you and the circumstance at which your user is clicking this button. In my case, it's a free guide that they probably saw advertised on Facebook, so it might be a bit aggressive for me to force download it on click. If someone's just paid you $50 to get your ebook, they're probably going to want it downloaded, so you're probably going to have this toggled on. So this is a personal preference thing. This is a reading the room thing, if you will. It's up to you. I'm going to leave it off for now. So this page is done and I've just saved it, but it's actually time to put it live on the internet, if you will. Publish it so the world can see it. Once I've published it, then I can set up my form and it will be done and I'll be able to show you guys a demo. So to get this live, I'm going to click publish. Here is the domain that my funnel is attributed to. So that's the domain that I kind of use for everything at work. And that's my .convertri subdomain. Each funnel is attributed to a domain. So all the pages inside a funnel belong to the same domain. So, mybusiness.com is all on one thing, but you can move whole funnels between domains. So if I wanted to move this to one that was on as webinar, I could do. If you guys want more information on that, let me know and I'll do it at the end. But for now, I just need to decide what goes after the slash in this URL. And I'm going to do webinar thank you. It's kind of what it is. It's my webinar thank you page. I could publish this without that text, just at the root domain, but I use this domain all the time, so I already have a home page attributed there. So I need to have something after the slash because obviously you can only have one page per root domain. So if this was already taken by myself, I'd already got a webinar thank you page, I'd have to do it as something else. But this is all good. This is ready, and that will be the URL of my page. So I'm going to click publish. And you're going to see in a second when I view the page that this high quality image that I touched upon right at the start of the webinar, it is not going to affect the page speed load. It is still going to be speedy. So that's published and it's live, and I know because I've got my green tick, and I've also got the option to view my page. So I'm going to go ahead and view it. Ah, cool. There it is, my page live on the internet. This would take me to my privacy policy. If I click this, I can tell that it's a download button that's working, so it's got my little thumb over it. And It's ready to link up to the form. I'm so excited. So I'm going to go back to the funnel. And I didn't have to save or copy and paste that link because, as I mentioned, this arrow will auto-save that information for me. And I'll show you that working in a second. We also have this new feature, probably about a couple months old, where when something is published, you know that it is because it's got a little green tick. And when I hover over, it tells me the URL. Super helpful for remembering the paths. So I'm going to go back to this opt-in page and I'm going to set up my form. I'm almost at the end of this section, guys, which is the longest section of the webinar and hopefully one of the most useful. So now's the time to set up the form. I've got the form fields, but I need to pick somewhere that when it is that I need to decide. Oh, I've got a question here from Gianfranco, thank you. So you want to embed a video onto the thank you page. So no issue. Imagine I was on the thank you page. I'm just not going to go back for a second. Easy squeezy. If you want to put a video on the thank you page, you can just put a video element on the page. If you go to the elements tray and select media from the left-hand menu, you can choose video, and these are videos that are hosted directly with Convertri. Is recommended just because it's easier for you guys. Host with us, have it with us, easy squeezy. If you don't have the video to re-upload or you don't want to, you can use a YouTube video, a Wistia video, or a Vimeo video. You just add this to the page. You select a video that you want to be on it. I have lots of videos. And then you would just publish the page and this would show the user the page. So that's how you would do that. Let me know if you want any more information on that and I will clarify when I've finished the form. So, as I was saying before I went down my video interlude, this page is ready for the form to be set up because I have to decide where this email is going to get sent, where this name is going to get sent. It can't just go into the world. It has to have a location. And normally that location is your autoresponder. And today I'm going to use MailChimp as my autoresponder, but we have a long list of autoresponders that we work with. We also work with Zapier. So if we don't work with your integration, Zapier probably does. So to tell Convertri all about this in it. So sorry, back to the video, guys. I will read out the question because I don't think you guys see them. I've tried to put my YouTube video URL in the video player, but it doesn't work. So the likelihood that this is happening is because these video elements are Convertri's video elements. They only work with videos hosted with Convertri. This URL isn't for YouTube. If you want to add your YouTube video to a page, click YouTube video, and there's a special little bit here for your YouTube URL. It looks a bit different. It's easy to falter there because it's slightly confusing. Add a video element to the page and paste it in here, and then publish it, and you will see it working. Cool. I'm going to stop waffling on about my autoresponder, and I'm going to set the form up. You're welcome. Hope that that has fixed the issue for you. So I'm going to go to Forms in the top-hand toolbar, and I'm going to get my form pop up. And step numero uno is telling it which autoresponder I want to work with. These are all the autoresponders that we offer as a direct integration. But as I said, don't worry because we also offer Zapier, so we kind of work with everything. I'm going to choose MailChimp, and I already have this integrated. Integrating it is a separate step that I don't show on this because it would involve me going into my personal MailChimp account. But if you want to know any more about how to integrate any of these, go to help.convertri.com, which is one of the best places to be, and type in your autoresponder. For instance, you think, oh, I want to use Aweber. How to integrate Aweber, full Aweber walkthrough. We have it all. So once you've followed one of those and you've integrated it, it's going to ask you for a target for a list. I think some of them call them different names, but they all mean the same thing. Basically, inside your autoresponder, you have different lists so that all of your contacts don't just all go to one place. The example I give about why this is important is if in my dreams in the future I own a pet shop and I have a mailing list and I have different pages, one that tells cat owners all about how fabulous I am with my cat products, one that tells dog owners all about the dog products that I have. I want to have them on separate lists so I can email them separate offers because the cat people are probably going to get pretty annoyed if I start to advertise them, like Dalmatian-sized dog beds. I doubt their cats are that big. I'd be impressed if they were, to be fair. So keeping a list segregated means that you're contacting the right people. And these are all created within your autoresponder. That's why I say some of them have a different name. Some autoresponders call them different things. I believe in MailChimp natively they're called audiences. But it's a list. It's a list of people. And I've just got the one, so I'm going to click on that one. And up will come this box here. And the temptation here is to just click next and ignore this because it looks complicated. Please don't ignore it. Ignoring this is the main reason that people email me on support. And I'm not mad that they're emailing me, but I want to save you guys the time. You know, you don't want to be emailing me. You want to be off with the stars. And that's because if you skip past this and you don't fill these boxes out, you've not told MailChimp the labels for the information that you're sending it. And if you've not told them the labels, it will just go, well, I can't send anything. I don't know what it is. I don't know what that box is. You didn't tell me, because robots are smart, but they're not that smart, thank goodness. Otherwise, they would have taken over by now. So we still need to give them a bit of a push. And so sometimes you will reach this point and it will look like this. Address, no type. Birthday, no type. First name, no type. There's always fixed fields, and these always stay the same, and you can't change the type of those. So that's good. So email's already set up. But all you need to do with this is a matching exercise. It's like kind of like playing Snap. You just go from this drop down and you pick the attributing point. Some of these aren't always exactly the same. So for instance, here, phone number is phone. Well, you guys are smarter than a robot, and I think you'll suss which goes with which. And like I said, if I don't set these up, so for instance, I've left birthday blank, if I then decide to collect someone's birthday, it's not going to work because I didn't set up the type. So make sure you have set these up, guys, please. It will save you time, trust me. Once you've done that, and you've probably then listened, you had like a nightmare of my voice saying it again, please set it up. Click next. And you'll be asked what you want your users to do once the form has been submitted. Great, the information has been sent over to MailChimp, they're added to my list. But what do you want them to do? Well, I could toggle this on and say, they can stay on my page. Stay where they are. But in my case, that's kind of mean, because I did promise them a guide, and I built a whole, thank you page for it. So I'm kind of going to need to redirect them there. Otherwise, I'm going to have people angry emailing me, calling me a scammer, and it would be rude. So, as I said earlier, drawing the arrows was going to come into play, and this is where it comes into play. If I hadn't drawn the arrow, this would be blank, and it would be saying, go on, tell me the URL, the same as it did when I made the links. Except for the fact that, so Chuck has asked a very, very good question about where I just set this up. I'll go back to the screen. Well, why isn't it just showing first name and email? Or why wouldn't you just set these up? First name and email. So, good question, Chuck, thank you. So obviously I have set up the first name and the email. If I'd left the rest of these as none, that information still would have been submitted, because I do need to only have first name and email set up, technically. However, the problem with this is if someone sets up a form once, right when they start, and they only have first name and email, and then they think, oh, I want to collect phone numbers. But like 2 months ago when they initially set up the form, they didn't assign it. And then that's where they email us and say, it's not passing over. And we say, yeah, you didn't assign the form field. And they go, ah. My advice is it takes like 5 seconds more just to attribute these correctly. And then it saves you the trouble. But yes, you're right in the fact that if I only did first name and email, it would be fine. But I'm trying to instill some best practices in so that to save you guys the hassle, because I'm human, we're human, and we make mistakes like that. So I was just saying that the arrows have auto-filled this. So that's the link to my thank you page, because I said to the arrows, I want them to go there. And so when I got to the thank you page, Convertri said, you want them to go here? And I said, yes, please. I'd like them to go here. So I'm happy with that. If I had loads of arrows, which I could, I can have as many arrows as I want, then this suggestions would have a full list of URLs for me to pick from. But in this case, it's right. That is where I want people redirected to. It's got my download button on it. So I'm happy with all of that. And my form is set up, so I'm going to click done. And I know that this has gone successfully because I've got my little red tick. When you set up products, for instance, and that's successful, you also get a little red tick. That red tick means success. You did it. If you go through those steps and you don't see the tick, try going through again, because it's likely that something has got missed. I have one more teeny tiny step to do before I publish this page and show you guys the awesome things that we created on this webinar today. And that is checking the form field. So just when I was explaining to Chuck in that section there, I was assigning the form fields. I was saying, everyone knows that that's a first name, that's a first name. Okay, that's an address, that's an address. Well, I need to make sure that my boxes, the input boxes, also know which role they're playing in this. My first name box needs to know it's a first name box, and my email box needs to know. And normally when it's these form fields pre-made, they do know, and they automatically assign them the right form field. But it's really important to check, because again, then you're confused. Oh, it's coming under the wrong label sometimes, or the information isn't being passed on at all, and that's because it's not got any form field settings. To check that this is set up, which it normally will be, but it never hurts to check, click on the element and go to form field settings, and you'll see the assigned field type is first name. Whew, that's right. And on email, it's email. It's perfect. So I'm feeling confident, guys, and I'm going to publish my page, and I'm going to show you guys what it looks like. It's my webinar opt-in. And after this portion, I will give a quick second for you guys to ask me any and every question about anything I just did. And then I'll move on to the tips and tricks, which, as I said, is a pretty cool segment, and I would recommend sticking around for, because I'm going to show you guys how to level up inside Convertri, how to save time, how to be lazy just like me. Cool. So my page is published, and I'm going to click View Page. And ta-da, here's my opt-in. I'm going to call it close enough. I'm going to call it close enough to that demo page. Cool, Leo, I've just seen your request, and I'll get through that in a second. I'm just going to demo the page, and then I'll get to your question. So I'm not ignoring you, I promise. So this has worked. My page is live, and I can show you guys what it looks like to be a human on my page. So that's my name, if you hadn't already guessed. And that is support's email address. If I do that and I click to download, it sends my form. I'm taken to the thank you page, and if I click this, I'm taken to the guide. It works. It's so beautiful. Well, it is. My computer loads a little bit slow when I'm on the webinar. There we go. There's my guide. And that's it, guys. That's how you get a fully working landing page that links up with a form, and it's how you get off the floor and running. Cool. So as I said, feel free to drop any questions in now about anything I just did, and I'm going to answer Leo's question while you do. Leo has asked, if possible, could you demonstrate how to embed an autoplay video panel on the landing page? Such as, thanks for the example, that really helps me sometimes. As soon as the person clicks in, a video message autoplays on the left-hand side with the enter and name panel on the right-hand side. Yes, I can. I like it when people ask a question and I can do it. So you said put this on the right-hand side, so I will. And then you're going to add video. So as I said before, if you go to media and you click this, you get all the different types of video players. I'm going to use Convertri's video player because if you are a pro member with us, which likelihood is you are, then you can host video directly with us, and that's super duper easy. I'll just show you quickly how to do that. So hosting video with us, as I said, is super duper easy. When you log in, this is your campaigns dashboard. You'll see all your funnels. I have quite a few, you'd hope. I use Convertri a lot. And you'll see the option for videos on the left-hand toolbar. Click this and you will see all the videos inside my account that I've ever uploaded. Or in your case, if you've not got any videos, it will say, do you want to upload one? And you'll say yes. Click upload video and you'll be prompted to select from your own files and give that a name. You'll click upload and it will take a second to upload depending on the length of your video. If you're uploading a full hour, maybe make yourself a cup of tea. That's an hour's worth of video, give it a chance. The same as if you're uploading to YouTube. So you'll do that and then it will be added to this list. You will have it saved to your account and you can use it anywhere inside your account. Go to the funnel and the page where you want to add this. So I'm going to go back to my landing page. Let it load. And I'm going to go to media. Give it a second. The webinar thing and Convertri means my computer's like, let me load. And I'm going to select the video element. And I talked before about the YouTube video. So if you're using videos hosted with YouTube, Wistia, or Vimeo and not uploading one as I just showed you, please use the appropriate player here. But if not, just click video. and this nifty video player will come up. You can resize it as you want. Click select your video and pick the video that would be best for you. I'm not too sure what that video is. I wonder what my video lead gate was. But it's on my video element nonetheless. And then you have all of these editing things. And one of the things that Leo mentioned is it autoplays. And so if you toggle on autoplay, this video will autoplay. And then you decide on desktop and mobile, maybe you don't want it to autoplay on mobile. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. So you do that. Additional autoplay settings. Now, this is a hard recommendation from us to always autoplay muted. That is because browsers block autoplays with sound. And that's because it's deemed as an aggressive tactic and it's gotten a bad rep. And so a browser, Safari basically blocks anything that moves, but any browsers, but namely Chrome, which would be the expectation that you're using Chrome, will block it if it's not muted. The user has this little sound button here and they can unmute it, but we recommend you autoplay it muted. But once you've done that, then that video will autoplay straight onto your page, Leo. So I hope that was a useful demonstration. If I click preview, which is how to see how a page looks without publishing it, it should show it autoplaying. So it's going to start playing, but with no sound, and then you'll be able to see that they can click this or click there to get the sound to work. So I hope that was useful, but let me know if you have any other questions. And then if not, we will move on to the tips and tricks, which, as I said, are super, super worth it. I'll just give you guys a second. Cool, I've got a message from Claudia before I get started with the tips and tricks. She said, hi, I'm a newbie. Hi, Claudia, welcome. You've got a number of questions. I'm going to rattle them off and then I'm going to rattle off my answers. What is a great host to get a domain? It does not matter. I use GoDaddy because I think GoDaddy's nice and easy, but we don't have any direct link with any of them and all of them work with us. Will having a specific host drive more traffic to your page? No, literally won't affect it. Go with whoever's cheapest for what you want to buy. Any great newbie instructional videos to watch that are not too techy? Yes. So we have our knowledge base, Claudia, and all of my other newbies today on my call. And this is full of everything and anything. There's two things that are good to get started with that aren't too techy. You have the getting started section of help.convertri.com, and this has 6 articles about when you first set up your account, what you're going to see, what you're going to get, how to publish your page. It's going to be similar to this, but obviously this is live, so you'll be able to watch this at your own pace. So yeah, there is this, and there is also, if I can find the product dyno, I can find the crash course, that would be useful. There we go. I will put this URL in the chat for you. Crash course. This is a crash course that we have hosted with Product Dino, who we work with. Love Product Dino. And this is 6 parts about all the main things you need to know about getting started with Convertri. So this webinar is a great landing point, but from here, this is the best place that isn't too techy. It really breaks it down. It comes with activities and assets to help you really, really get started with us. So that's the place to be. Let me look at the rest of Claudia's questions. Oh, you want a bit more traffic. So traffic is interesting. There are 2 things I would say, and it's going to be patience with traffic, definitely. We have a Facebook group, and they are the people to talk to about how they drive traffic to their pages. It's full of actual users who are friendly, promise they don't bite. It's called the Convertri Clubhouse, and they would give you really good advice on, which advertising are they paying for to get the best traffic, for instance, and things like that. So that's how I would say about boosting traffic and making sure that you get your SEO correct, which you can find out more about here. So just make sure your SEO is in there and a bit of patience and time. And if you ever have any issues, you can email us at support@convertri.com. Leo said thank you for the feedback. You're very welcome. And I have two people, Claudia and Promit, asking about a recording. So yes, this recording will be up as fast as my computer will allow it. But if they are all of our getting started webinars we run every 2 weeks can be found here when you go to help.convertri.com, and you can get the getting started webinars. Hopefully this one will be up today or tomorrow, and a link to it will be in our next update video. Or if you want a link to it tonight because you want the recording, you want to see it again already because it was obviously just a stellar webinar from me, just email support@convertri.com. I haven't dropped that in the chat yet. I will do now. We are friendly, we don't bite, we are here for advice, to check if anything's ever happening on your pages, if you've added anything right, and also I'm on support today and I will send you that information. So yes, it is recorded and it will be there forever. A permanent reminder of the wonderful webinar you had with me, obviously. So you're very, very welcome, Chuck. I'm glad you enjoyed. I think I've fielded some questions there, guys. So I'm going to move on to my tips and tricks because this is the best part. This is my favorite part of the webinar. Stick with me. So this is a page that's built from a template. It's just an old Convertri template, and we're going to make it up to scratch. We are going to make it, you're very welcome, Claudia. We're going to get it up to the standard that I want it at today. And off the bat, you're like, well, that's a pretty nice template. I don't know what she's complaining about. And I'm like, yeah, I couldn't design anything better, okay? But there are some things I want to do. And that's because when you're very welcome. Thank you very much. I've got kind words coming in. So when you add a template to your account, it's going to be shiny. It's better than anything I could have designed. But there's going to be some editing. Things you do want, things you don't want, things you want to reorder. And this segment is just going to be 10 minutes, and I'm just going to show you how to do it as quickly, as easily, as efficiently, as lazily, whichever term you want to use. So I've got this template. It's pretty nice. Got some room for some testimonials about how great my coffee shop is. Wish I could say I owned one. Would invite you around for a coffee, but I can't. That's fine. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is show you guys how to delete all of this section here, but without having to delete these one by one. You see this black backing container? You can see there's quite a few elements inside of it, and I've decided that I'm not offering a menu. My menu is secret, and I want to delete this element. But if I click on all of these and delete them one by one, A, time consuming, loop back to the bit where I'm lazy. B, I might miss something. I'm human, I make human error. We all are human, and I don't want to leave some accidentally like floating prices in the middle of my page. It's just irritating. But in the same way that this container means I can move everything around with it, it also lets me delete everything with it. So if I have the container selected, which I know that I do because I have the little pink outlines, and I click the trash can, we'll not get into the debate about what we're calling it again, but I click it, it all goes like magic, and I don't have to look at that menu anymore, which I didn't want to look at anyway. So that's good, and it's gone, and it's not there. I didn't want it, but now I have this big old gap on my page. And this is a lot of different elements that are in line and, again, lazy. I don't want to pull them all up because that feels time consuming. Well, there is an easier way. So when I click this, I can see the container that's behind it. And when I click here, I can see the container behind it's here. So that's kind of all the space between it. Well, we have a remove white space button. So removing white space just removes any gap between two elements and tucks them next to each other, nestles them in. So if I have this panel selected, and all of our templates are built with panels like this to make your life easier, I click the remove white space button. It's next to the bin, trash can, etc. It's next to that, and if you click on it, this is going to tuck up to the top. But not only does it tuck up, everything underneath it tucks up. So if someone goes on my page now, they never would have even known that that menu element was there. Removed, gone, out of my way, chucked out. But I'm also indecisive. And if I might decide, oh, maybe I wanted a bit more white space here. Maybe I want a banner telling people that I'm doing 50% off coffee this week because I'm super generous. But now I've removed white space. There's no create white space button on I know, it's fine. To add white space is super duper easy. You're just going to end up dragging the element down. But if I just drag these down, I'm going to end up in a similar situation where I'm dragging everything down one by one so that it's not overlapping. But if I hold down Shift on my keyboard, which I promise you I am, you just can't see, and then I drag, everything drags with it. So I can create some white space. And everything is still neat and tidy. So just holding down Shift and drag it to my heart's content. Go crazy. There we go. So I'm going to create that much space. And I'm pretty happy with that. The panels have done me good there. So I'm going to have a scout through the rest of this page and see what else I want to do. And the next thing I want to do is show you guys another keyboard shortcut. So that was Shift drag. I'm now going to show you what Alt drag does. And it's cloning made so easy. So I like this dude and I want to have two of him. So I'm going to hold down Alt and I'm going to drag. Okay, I wasn't holding down Alt apparently. Hold down Alt and drag. There we go. Click on the element, Alt, drag. Click on the element, Alt, drag. And it just clones it. So if you've got the perfect element, the perfect color, the perfect size, etc., or you've got it close enough, just clone it and then you can edit it, move it wherever you want, have a copy. Perfection. But now my testimonial photos are kind of in a bad order. There's not looking neat. And I'm lazy. And I want to use those alignment tools that I showed you guys earlier when I reordered all the stuff in my panel, but I don't want to affect everything inside this panel. And the key to that is just getting really used to creating panels around everything that you want grouped or aligned, but you can make them completely opaque and so no user knows they're there. So I'm going to add a panel. And at this point, it's sitting on top of the elements. So I'm going to go to Display, Element Outlines, and that way I know where the elements are underneath it. I'm going to make sure that the elements are all contained. I'm going to make sure they're all in there. Make the box the right size. Then I'm going to make these elements sit on top of my container because it's not a container. It won't act as a container and move with them unless it's sat behind them. So I'm going to click Send Backwards until all of these are on top. And now they are. Beautiful. The next thing I'm going to do is go to Background, open that color picker like I did before, and make this box completely see-through. So it's our little secret. Literally no one on the page would know that it was there. But now, when it's selected and I go to those alignment tools, I can use them. I can justify these and maybe a middle align. And now they're all reordered and I got to be lazy. And I know that those are there because I've got the element outlines on, but if I turn them off, you literally can't tell that there's a thing here. But just doing the panels not only helps with this, but it helps with mobilization. So when I go to the mobile page right now, click Remobilize because I've made some changes. And I mean, the title's fine, the heading's fine, the image is fine. But I'm having a bit of an issue here because on my desktop page where it says bread, it has the text underneath, pastry has the text about pastry, coffee has the text about coffee, but the mobile page, it hasn't done that. And you can manually move these around, as I said. Gianno Franco is saying how much he likes this lazy mode. Same, that's why it's my favorite part. I'm lazy. What can I say? I want to build pages quickly and efficiently. So glad I've got someone on my lazy team. So these aren't looking like how I wanted them, and I can move these around, but as I said, there is a way to avoid this, and that's to understand how our mobile editor works. How does Convertri take this page and turn it into a mobile page? And the answer is that Convertri likes, like all of us, to read a book, and it reads your page like a book. So it reads it line by line. So it goes like this, along to logo, and it shows that, it says that's line number 1. And then it says, great, I'm going to read the image, that's line number 2. And you can see that here. And then it goes along in a line, and it reads these 3 elements, and it goes, they're one line, and it groups them. And then it reads those 3 and goes, they're one line, and it groups them, and it's pleased with itself, and it's wrong. And do you know what? Convertri didn't know any better. We didn't tell it that these elements need to be grouped together, and so we have ended up with this situation. And so a best practice is to get used to thinking about this when you build your desktop page so that you don't end up spending time on your mobile page because you built your desktop page with the way that Convertri works in mind. And to fix this problem, I'm going to add panels behind all of these. You may notice I really, really love panels. And that is because if I have panels behind all of these, Convertri will read this again and it will go, oh, all of those together. Okay, I'll show them together. That's what you wanted. Convertri just wants you to be happy. So I've got 3 of these elements. I'm going to send it to I'm going to bring it forward. Bring it forward, but send it so that it's in front of the bottom panel, but in front behind these 2. So again, I want them all to sit on top, and then I would go through these to the background, make them all opaque again, so that the users are none the wiser. And the magic of this is that at this point, you don't need to go and click remobilize again. Convertri will automatically go, oh, Anna made a change. And it's done it, so magical. And now those are grouped correctly. So the key to this is understanding how Convertri works and doing this preemptively, and then you're never going to have any issues. I'm just going to have a scout through my mobile page, see if anything, I mean, this is all looking pretty good to me. Those line up. I found my issue. These on the mobile page, they're landscape. But on the mobile page, they're vertical because Convertri's read it like a book. So I'm going to add a panel. Panels are just beautiful, beautiful items. They're so plain at first, but once you know the magic of panels, they become indispensable. I'm going to send it backwards. So the background to opaque. I'm going to click select. And just like that, they're landscape. They're how I wanted. They were vertical before. But there's one condition to this and one condition only to the laziness of this hack. And that is how wide this can be. You can see here, I've got a bit of space either side. If I was to make this longer and go back to my mobile page, those are stacked again. And that's because 300 pixels, which I believe this would be much larger than, it's 460. 300 pixels is the width at which this mobilization trick works. Because otherwise, this box is too wide for the mobile screen, and Convertri's like, I have to stack it, you idiot. I can't do anything about it. Fair enough, Convertri. If I reduce this down to something below 300, let's go 280. Check it on here. Make it a bit smaller again. Yeah, because I've changed it now here. It will then go landscape, but I shouldn't have changed it on the mobile view. I should have changed it on the desktop view because I was being silly. So that hack again will work only up to 300. Cool, well, I know that I wish I had more lazy hacks for you guys, but that's all I have. So we're reaching the portion for like final questions, burning questions you want to know, and that's anything about Convertri. Can it do this? Can it do that? How do I, whatever. Start popping those in the box now, and I will get them all answered. And while you guys are going to do that, I'm going to show you our newest feature because I'm so excited about it, and that is our debugging feature. So I'm just going to go on a page that I made earlier. So lots of people add custom scripts. That's how you get Google Analytics, for instance, integrated, or Tag Manager. They use custom HTML to get some groovy stuff on their pages. I'm always very impressed. And they also use custom CSS to affect the way the elements work. And sometimes these scripts, they're a bit funky and they end up doing something funky to your page. And normally what happens is someone emails us on support and says, hey, why is my page doing this? We end up having to clone their page, delete scripts one by one, work out what's happening, and get back to them. But we could save them a ton of time by letting them debug it themselves. So to do this, all you need to do is go to debug in the top toolbar, and you can turn off all the custom scripts, all the CSS, and all the HTML on the page, republish, and try and work out what's going wrong. This has been saving me time already, and it's only released this week, and I think it's going to save you guys a ton of time too when it comes to troubleshooting script issues. So hopefully that you guys make good use of that. That ends everything I have to say, guys. So I'm just going to refer into some questions that we have. You're very welcome, Chuck, for the insight. I think hopefully this was helpful for you in getting started with lead gen stuff. And just as I've been asking, I'm getting asked about the training. And like I said, this is the best place to find our training, help@convertri.com. It's it's a wealth. You're going to hear my voice on there if you nose around a bit. So sorry if you think, oh, I don't want to listen to Honor anymore. I'm on there. My voice. We've got about all of our integrations that we work with, different resources like about mobile. So these resources are every single week. I post on Facebook, and one of my co-workers posts on Facebook called Dan. He's a very friendly guy. And this is a wealth of all of the stuff that we have posted onto Facebook about how to different templates that we love, how to edit them, little hacks and things like that. So that's quite a cool little pocket to be in. So Chuck has asked, can I add QLiker to Convertri? I'm not familiar with QLiker. If you have a second, could you let me know what it does and how you're using it at the moment? While you type that in, I would say, so you can add anything to Convertri that has HTML. So if it works on scripts like JavaScripts and things like that. Oh, so you mean like a rotator for offers. So it shows, I'm assuming what you mean here, Chuck, is it shows different offers on different days, depending on what you decide it to show. Cool. So if you have a piece of HTML that can do that, then that is possible. If it's like an HTML element, you can add it like a JavaScript element. If not, then unfortunately you won't be able to do it, but that's quite a cool feature suggestion. I'll add it to our features board when this call is done, because I quite like the idea of being able to turn off and on offers. So yeah, that wouldn't be possible right now, unfortunately. I completely get what you're getting at with that. I'm going to put it as a feature suggestion, and hopefully it materializes at some point. So are they using it? Sorry, Chuck is saying lots of folks are using it in my groups, in Convertri groups, or just groups. If it's Convertri groups, I'm going to get real nosy about it now, because I want to know what they're doing. Okay, so I'm not too sure if anyone's using it with Convertri. I think the right place, to be honest, to ask that would be the group, because like I said, I myself don't use rotators. A launchpad for leaders is where you've got it, got you. Yeah, no, I would hope that that would work with us. And like I said, if you can add it via HTML, then it can be added. But I would either ask the launchpad for leaders if anyone has managed to make it work there, or ask our Facebook group if anyone has been able to add a rotator, because I've not tried it yet. It just hasn't cropped up for me. Maybe I will in the future when I see a demand such as yourself, and I'll submit it as a feature suggestion in the meantime. But to my knowledge, I am not sure how that would be achieved. I'm very sorry. Sorry to disappoint there, Chuck. So I think that's it. I think that's I've answered all your questions. I've talked and I've talked and I've talked. It's probably time for you to go get a cup of tea or wherever you are. It's getting later my time. And have a sit down. But thank you very much for coming today, guys. And like I said, if you ever get that burning question, yeah, maybe I'll get it added. I was definitely on my feature list, and I'll write down that Chuck requested it. Don't worry. That's the joy of Convertri, is pretty much everything we build was requested by a user at some point, and that's why we build it. So we love building things that are useful for people. So as I said, I'm glad it's a success. Chuck's really amping me up today, guys. Loving that. So as I said, I work the support desk, so do my lovely co-workers. If in 2 hours time you suddenly realize I wish I'd asked that question, just email support@convertri.com. Someone friendly will get it answered for you nice and quickly. Our support is just nearly as quick as our page loads, but not quite. We can't quite beat those page loads. Cool, guys. I've had a lot of fun today, and I hope you have too. And I'm sure I'll catch you on the email, on the support desk, and the Facebook group, or maybe I won't, because you're going to be so good from this webinar that you don't need me. So catch you on the flip side, guys.